Well, making New Year's resolutions, that's one thing. Sticking to them, well, that's a whole nother thing. Dr. Rich Hall is a licensed psychologist from Miami University, and we want to talk about this whole notion of making resolutions. We were just talking in the commercial break about, should you kind of even make them? Like, is that something that we should be forcing on ourselves, or how do we start even thinking about New Year's resolutions?
Yes, so I'm a fan of making resolutions because we need goals. Goals are good for self-worth, self-esteem. So the idea that when we achieve something, we feel a little better about ourselves. So I do think, and I'm also a big fan of self-reflection, right? Because of what I do.
Sure.
So the idea that we have to stop for a moment and look at how far have we come? Where do we want to go? And that setting milestones ahead of us help us to feel some sense of progress.
So the idea of kind of setting some goals is okay, but maybe making them more reachable rather than saying, you know, okay, I have a goal to lose 100 pounds in 3 months, or, you know, something that you probably know might fail. It might be a good idea to make them more within your grasp.
Yeah, we often promote this idea of SMART goals, the idea that they have to be measurable, they have to be attainable, realistic in some way or another. And so that if we set these very lofty goals, which we often do, it's like, I want to lose weight. Taking a moment to ask why you want to set this goal for yourself, and then how do you meet it in a more realistic way. Like, the idea of losing weight is more often about exercise and a good diet. So how can I make small changes that get me to my eventual goal, and not assume that one big behavioral change will be everything I need to do to be a whole different person.
Do you find that any technology these days helps? Like, I've used a couple apps for meditation or that type of thing have helped me, and they have helped in some small ways for me to stick for some things.
Yeah, we were talking in the break about podcasts, and I think podcasts, apps, you know, I don't know where I'm going if my phone calendar doesn't tell me when I'm supposed to be somewhere, right? And so the idea that we can build in little sort of reminders for ourselves and use these apps that can give us reminders. There's a point where you could become overwhelmed by them. I turned on the Calm app for like a week, and I got tired of it reminding me to take mindfulness breaks. But the idea that we can build in these little things using the technology we have to remind us when our brains might forget or get caught up in the day-to-day grind.
Okay, so we're going to start a little bit smaller. We're going to do some self-reflection on why we are making these goals in the first place. We could use some technology. What are some other reasons why people may kind of not succeed as much with some of the goals they set at the beginning of the year?
A lot of it's negative self-talk. So a lot of times we come into these conversations thinking, I have to change because there's something wrong with me. And so I'm a big fan of thinking in terms of, there's things I'd like to add to my life. Little things that I can do that I think will enhance my experience, enhance my relationships, give me the opportunity to sort of grow into the person I want to be. Like I said, I think it's good that we have goals, that we have ideals that we set for ourselves, but that we have to be sort of kind to ourselves in that process of growth, recognizing that it takes a little bit of time, it takes effort, it takes a level of commitment, and that when we fall short, that we can't be so hard on ourselves and start down on ourselves, that negative voice that often comes up in our head. We have to learn to sort of be kinder, gentler to ourselves so that we can meet those goals.
I was also reading an article about how one of the things that scientists have kind of studied that help people stick with some of their goals or resolutions is there has to be some sort of enjoyment.
Yes.
And even if that's a hard thing to say, you know, how am I going to enjoy stop drinking, or how am I going to enjoy exercise when I hate it?
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions? I was listening to one podcast where a woman said she will now only let herself watch Netflix while she's exercising, and that's the way she got herself to exercise.
Yes, no, that's a big deal. Sort of, how do you essentially reward yourself and not think of this as drudgery? Exercise is a good one because, you know, all of us know we need to exercise, but most of us don't want to do it every day. I myself have been struggling with some exercise goals around walking. I now walk 20,000 steps a day, but that took a slow progression of me not wanting to do it and pairing it with activities I like watching certain YouTube clips. It's like, well, I'll just walk the length of this YouTube clip, and that's 15 minutes. That'll give me, you know, at least 1,500 steps. So the idea that we can pair it with something we enjoy, reward ourselves with something that's sort of within sort of adaptive. It's like, don't reward yourself with sweets when you're trying to exercise, right? So be good about that. And that by doing that, we sort of essentially trick our mind into thinking this is good for me and I'm getting something good out of it, so that it's not all just, I hate myself, I need to do this thing that I hate.
Well, those are some great tips. Dr. Rich Hall, thank you so much. Good luck to everybody who is setting those. I'm not even going to call them resolutions anymore. I'm going to call them just goals.
Yes,
goals
absolutely.
for ourselves. Okay.
Goals and expectations.
And expectations. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you too.
Thank you. Well, one of the country's most popular sporting events gets postponed. And let's get